pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Medfield Dale Street School Building Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so by following the instructions on the agenda and meeting notice. All right. Did we lose? We got a few more in the lobby. I just want to promote here, or one more rather. Okay. All right. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully we can make this relatively quick. We've been through a lot over the last month, so I will hand it over to Lynn to run us through the agenda.
Okay, everyone. We first have on the agenda voting for approval of the September 16th, 2020 SBC meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to take a look at them in the packet that Gina sent out.
Anyone have any questions or comments on the minutes as submitted?
So this is Mike. The only thing I had is just the spelling on some of the names. I don't know all of them, but I think some of them are wrong.
Which names?
Well, I think like Renee Howley, I'm pretty sure Renee Howley is RNEE.
Oh, okay.
Bob Herber's name is spelled incorrectly.
I'll check that, Mike. I thought I had taken that from the video. I took pictures with my phone of the video, but maybe I misspelled some stuff.
So Owen should also be able to get you the login list.
Right.
And I think we should go off of how people spelled their own names.
I have all of that, Gina. I can send that to you. I have the
All
print.
right, good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, I'll send it to you right now.
All right.
Like Mrs. Leah is LIA.
Yeah,
It's not
LIA.
LEAH.
Yeah.
So just I noted enough of them that I think it's worth checking. I apologize. My video is telling me it's not working either. So I'm glad I didn't wear a tie.
So were
That's a
there any other corrections that needed to be made to the minutes?
Those are the only ones that I noted. I'm assuming everybody looked at the descriptions of the what they said. I don't think the description of what I said under 45 is correct. I think whoever wrote the minutes filled in there. I wasn't talking about the 15% expansion required by the MSBA in that. In the point I made there, I don't know how important that is, but that's not what I said. But if you delete the reference to the 15%, I think that's fine. Let's see if I had any other notes on this. I think that was all that I had.
So moved as amended.
All right, so I have a motion from Leo Brem to approve the minutes as amended by Mike Marcucci.
Second, Jeff.
We have a second from Jeff. I will run down the list. Jeff Marsden,
Yes.
Tom Erb,
Yes.
Tim Bonfatti,
Yes.
Walt Kincaid,
Yes.
Anna Mae O'Sheabrook,
Yes.
Mike Marcucci,
Yep.
Leo Brem,
Yes.
and Mike Quinlan also votes yes. What's next, Lynn?
Yes, next on the agenda is the preferred schematic report. We have an outline of the PSR deliverables and schedule that we'll be working on as soon as we get a vote on the preferred option. And part of that is some requirements from the district and town. We'll be sending out a list of things that is required from that side, but mostly it has to do with, you know, all municipal projects currently underway, the estimated impact to local property taxes, which we've already started to work on, as well as any operational costs based on the preferred solution, the budget statements for the preferred schematic, and also the revenue table as well. So those are the key things that we'll have to be working on as soon as we get the preferred schematic. Also, we've been talking about neighborhood meetings and prepping for those meetings. Right now, I think we are looking just at the Wheelock neighborhood for a meeting. And Gina, do you want to discuss a few of the things that are planned for that?
Yeah, well, I was going to do it, but Anna Mae, did you want to speak to that since you're here?
Oh, I thought you weren't going to be here. Sorry.
No, I wasn't supposed to, but that's all right. I'm here now. So yes, so I think at our last subcommittee meeting, we had discussed having a Wheelock neighborhood meeting, and I believe there was at least 2 requests plural, for the lot to be, you know, marked off. And I understood that that might be premature, but however, it was suggested that perhaps we have a pre-recorded aerial tour of the area. So it's a bit more tangible. So that was under discussion, and I hope that can happen. I think, Gina, you said that that is a viability.
Yeah, Arrow Street, we Larry and Tina are here as well, and they did say that I think that's something we all can come together and work on and figure it out, what the logistics of that are.
Exactly, and then we'll target, you know, specifically the neighborhoods around there as well. We have one of our committee members going to the post office and, you know, trying to figure out best ways to approach all the folks in that area, as well as our regular outreach to people.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up, we have a staff member who is licensed by the FAA to fly a drone and does a lot of drone work for us. And I think we are, if we haven't already scheduled it, it's in process. I recall it was ended this week or early next week. Tina's nodding.
This Friday.
This Friday,
Yeah.
okay. So Friday afternoon after school.
Yep.
And the goal is that we do a fly around and film that. So we have it. And then what we're going to try to do is then intersperse some views of the model in a way that while we can't quite get the 2 in alignment, we can sort of do a still version of a massing model to kind of show it in context to the rest of the space. So not quite like Disney would do, but we think it should be effective to hopefully answer the question that one of the members of the public asked about, you know, could we see the corners of the building staked out on site?
I think that would be great. So I think that's a great solution. Thank you.
Tina, did you hear back from Holly on that?
Yes, she said that was fine. I spoke with her yesterday, actually, in person when I was at Wheelock.
Oh, good.
And she said that 3:30 is a good time because they would be done with all their dismissals at that time.
Okay, great.
And do we have a specific date for the Wheelock Neighborhood Forum by any chance?
We haven't yet. We haven't set that. We were, I think we were going to talk about the traffic information and when we would have that to be able to discuss with that group.
Okay.
What is the status of the traffic study currently?
Tina, you want to jump on that one?
Yep. Yeah. And I can, I actually have an aerial plan just to show what's happening. So if I can try to share my screen. Let's see. Make sure this works. Oh, I think I need permission to share my screen.
So Mike or Owen, can you give Tina permission?
Sure.
Yeah. Should be all set, Tina.
Oh, yep, here we go. Let's see. Okay. You
So
can see
while
my
Tina's
screen?
doing that, oh, go ahead, Tina.
Yep. Did it pop up?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So what you see here is an aerial map, just to kind of identify what the icons are showing. The green icons are showing where existing traffic lights are in Medfield. And then the red circles are the locations where the traffic counts are being conducted between yesterday and today.
So
So-
Tina, since not everybody here is fully up to speed on this, maybe you can start by sort of outlining our strategy around traffic count and where there was specific reasons why these were chosen, what data we have to compare to, et cetera.
Yes, yeah, I can run through that. So I'll start from basically Main Street. You're probably wondering why are we getting traffic counts along Main Street and also along Spring Street and or Route 27 at these locations. The reason why they're at these specific locations is because there's actually data from DOT, historic data at these specific locations, which they maintain. And they have data from as early as, as late as 2019. So we thought it might make sense to gather current data at these specific locations and be able to compare them to the numbers from 2019 that DOT has. So those are the reasons for having those two areas, which seems far from Wheelock, but having that as a baseline will help us determine and identify what the potential traffic would be moving through Medfield and potentially down towards Wheelock. And then the other two that you see closer to Wheelock are the ones that we've been speaking of, which is South Street and Elm Street at that intersection. And so cameras are set up so that there will be counts to identify not just how many cars, but also whether cars are making left turns or right turns. And that will give niche engineering an idea of what the stacking of the cars would be, the capacities and so forth. And similarly to South Street and Spring Street, same thing, counting cars, but also whether they're making left turns or right turns. So that's what you see here. And so once niche has that information, they'll be doing their analysis, but also understanding the current student population, what the potential future population of the school would be, the addition of a new school, and how that might affect the traffic in the area.
Right, and just to follow up what Tina was saying, so the intersection at South and Spring, there was a traffic study done there in 2016. And as Tina mentions, there's also the Spring Street and South Street information from 2019. And the goal really is that to then compare counts today, in fact, yesterday, with those, and then sort of use that as a multiplier. So if maybe we have 80% of what we thought we had in 2019, that might be an indicator to us that the traffic counts at South and Elm could be upscaled by 80%, 20%, sorry, to understand where it might be in a non-COVID situation. What we're hearing from our traffic engineer is DOT is indicating that traffic is, in their minds, similar to what it was in 2019. And what they're suggesting is that because people are not taking as much public transit, they're seeing a lot more car usage. So that's making up for some of the differential in those of us who are working at home.
And
I
Larry?
think, yeah, and I was going to say, personally, I think my experience, it might be a little different, but I think this allows us to kind of bracket the situation.
Larry, quick question. I had thought we were trying to avoid Wednesdays, given that there's nobody in school on Wednesdays for traffic counts.
Yeah, Tina, I think I got it
Oh.
wrong. It was yesterday, right?
Yeah, so it is yesterday.
They're still
So they
out there
started
today.
Right, so they're actually continuing counts. So the intersection counts are basically a 24-hour count. The daily counts, which are sort of the tubes or the cables that you see run across the road.
Yeah.
So those daily counts are at Main Street and at Spring Street near the town center. So those daily counts are going to be a 48-hour count. So those will be those have been counting since yesterday and through today. But the intersection counts are meant to be a 24-hour look at the numbers, and those are only at South and Elm and also at South and Spring. The other daily count that we're actually doing and included is on Elm Street. So that will also give us 48 hours of information.
Okay, so yeah, just the counts on Elm Street might be a little different from yesterday to today, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah, and the idea behind that actually is to sort of give us a look, and it's really just a snapshot in time, but it's to give us a look and an understanding of what the traffic difference may be on a Tuesday when there are basically commuter traffic plus school traffic, and then on a Wednesday when it's only commuter traffic. So we will see a difference. We will likely see a difference in those numbers, but it can give us an understanding of why and what those numbers mean.
Okay, so once we have all these counts and all the data, which should be wrapping up in a few hours, and I'm sure they'll collect it all, when might we have, some sort of something presentable, so we have some time, obviously, to pull together. We have to communicate with the neighbors that have reached out. Certainly, so far, we have emails that I think Lynn and Left Field can pull together of the people that have emailed about concerns on the Elm Street, Knollwood, Cross, Phillip, etc. And I think maybe, Christine, if we gave you sort of a list of or approximate area of the neighborhood that we're looking to capture for this meeting, I'm wondering if what's the best way to reach out to the neighborhood? Is it something in the mailbox? Is it I mean, we have the emails of the people who've reached out so far, but how do we capture the other people who may not have been engaged yet?
You can have the Board of Assessors list. We can have them run a list and then we can do a mailing for you.
Okay. So
That'll
we'll-
capture, so you can give us, we can have an exact geographic area that we can run.
Yeah. I had sent a sketch over to the project team, but we can talk about that in terms of how far out we're going in our outreach for that neighborhood. But we'll just have to work out the logistics. And so Larry and Lynn, looking at the schedule, do you have maybe some thoughts on dates on when we might look to schedule this for. I know we've got some other things coming up, including the Board of Selectmen's vote on the 10th. So we'll want to just sort of be cognizant of that as we put the schedule together.
Yeah, I think we were shooting for that first week of November. I think we've accidentally put election night on there, which probably is not a good night for it. Although
No.
maybe people want some distraction, but
Yeah.
otherwise, and we can confirm with the traffic engineer, but our general goal was that first week of November. Maybe it's Wednesday night or Thursday night.
Yeah, how's the 4th? That's Wednesday is the 4th.
And I think the other question is, trying to avoid other obligations or other things that are happening in town, whether it's other public meetings or, whatever that we're not up against or causing conflicts with.
I think the 3rd works great. Stay with the 3rd.
I mean, Wednesdays seem to work pretty well. I mean, obviously this group, there's a bunch of people here who are involved in other public bodies here in town. So I know Tuesdays and Thursdays can be kind of challenging. So, I mean, I'm fine with the 4th, but I don't know if anybody else has any difference of opinion.
I mean, I have a commitment on the 4th at 6 but I don't think you should schedule it around me, so that's fine with me.
That's why I'm staying with the 3rd. No one has anything planned on the 3rd.
I almost wonder if what people's attitudes will be on the 4th, but
That's
in
true.
general.
It has to happen that week, right?
Yeah, I think so. So why don't we plan on the 4th?
Second.
It seems like, I mean, we could do the 2nd too. It's another alternative, but
I think the 2nd is a good place to go. I'm booked on the 4th myself, but
are you? I have no objections on the 2nd.
Fine with me.
All right, why don't we say November 2nd then?
Okay. And then, so what we will do is we will confirm with our traffic engineer to make sure we're good to go on that. And we probably with the working group have a little bit of a preview of that, hopefully towards the end of next week, such that we can all kind of be comfortable with what we understand is the numbers. But targeting the 2nd of November. I think that makes sense. That gives folks a week and a day before the select board meeting on the 10th.
Yeah, and
What time would it be on the 2nd? Like what time would it be done? We'd be doing it.
That's a good question. I mean, usually the forums, I like to start on the earlier side in case they go long, but this is kind of targeted. I'm open to it, but I mean, 7 may be better for people than 6. But
Okay. I just want to put a thing in my calendar.
yeah.
Well, that's roughly a week and a half away. So do we have enough to provide notification to people? Enough time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly we want to get stuff into people's mailboxes by, I'd say Monday at the latest. That would give people a week.
That means we need to get the area.
Yeah,
I
can work with Christine on that and getting the geographical area.
Okay.
I can get that to you tomorrow, Christine.
Not a problem.
Great, and we can talk about that at the subcommittee meeting tomorrow in terms of the content of the
Perfect.
invite letter, what have you, that we send out.
That'd be great, Anime.
Thanks.
Okay, and from our side, we'll confirm that we'll have the traffic info back in plenty of time for a meeting on the 2nd.
And are we going to do any a forum with anybody on the Dell Street area. There hasn't really been a lot of opposition to that site. So I thought we had talked about maybe foregoing that for now.
Well, I mean, certainly we can't get a second one done by the selectmen's vote. I think that might be a little bit of a tight time frame. I don't know, Mike Marcucci, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think the bigger concern, I think when we had talked at the Board of Selectmen meeting back in September, I think the suggestion was for the general public forum where people could come and address whatever questions, make whatever points they wanted to make, to provide whatever information, additional arguments, what have you, that they wanted the committee and the selectmen to consider. And then the second one was one specifically targeted to the traffic concerns in the Elm Street area. So I think we've certainly heard from a lot of people. I've heard from a lot of people. I think everybody's heard from a lot of people in the Dale Street area on both sides of it. But I don't think you need one specifically devoted to the traffic issue there, because the only possibility here is if it goes to Wheelock, the traffic situation will improve in the Dale Street area. And I've never heard anyone complain about having fewer cars in their neighborhood. And so I think the concerns for the people there who want the school there, they don't want it there because they like the traffic or want to have some way of maintaining the traffic. They like the school having there because they want the school there. They think it's a better location. They like having the school there. And I think we've certainly had ample opportunities to understand those points. But I think the specific traffic one, because I think Mike and Tim and others have talked about various traffic mitigation steps that they've taken on other projects, options that they have that give them confidence that the traffic issue can be mitigated. And I certainly thought it was important that those specific traffic concerns and those potential mitigation options that you've referenced be discussed in some detail with the neighbors in the Elm Street, in the greater Elm Street area. So Elm Street and then the streets that feed into Elm Street that might see an uptick in traffic as a part of it. So I didn't necessarily think there would be a Dale specific parking or Dale specific traffic meeting in the same way there'd be an Elm Street specific traffic meeting.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I agree with Mike. I mean, I do think we need to have time once we get that traffic study to have the civil engineer look at what, I do think we need to come up, at least with more concrete ideas on what the mitigation would be. So the study will just be the information they use to then they need to take some time and actually think about what that mitigation would be. Study won't tell us. I mean, I don't think they'll put that in the study.
Yeah, that's really just the baseline for how we can, we see the impacts.
Yeah, just more around timing that we have, a few days to get that, and like the Friday before or Thursday, we can at least have a meeting. The working group should look at it and make sure it makes sense.
Yeah.
Priced and,
Yep.
It's more around timing, but I agree with Mike. I don't see the need for the Dale Street meeting.
All right, Lynn.
Okay. Also on the agenda here is the FAQs. We just recently updated the one that was sent out before the public forum on the 14th, and we will continue to update it as we progress. We are also going to combine the other two sets of FAQs together into one, so that we'll have one live document that gets updated as required as we move along. And they will be posted on the project website. And I believe it's also on the town website. I think we posted it on Facebook as well.
Yes, Tim did. Thank you, Tim. And Tom is going to be emailing it out later in the week as well. Thanks. I like the evolving FAQ sheet, so thanks for doing that.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda is the communications subcommittee update. We've kind of touched on that previously when we were talking about the neighborhood meetings, but Anna Mae, do you have anything more to add to that? I know we have a communications subcommittee meeting tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow at noon, yeah. And I think the only other thing I'd like to add really is that, you know, the FAQ is a fantastic document, but it is quite dense. So I think we talked about at the last communication meeting that we will pick out topics and parse it out and you know, push it out through our outlets, either email and social media, and just parse it out a little bit. It's just easier to digest that way. So I think
Okay.
that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Okay, then next on the schedule, on the agenda is project schedule, and a few of the key milestones coming up is now that we've set or tentatively set the neighborhood meeting with Elm Street for the 2nd of November. We also had the Board of Selectmen meeting for November 11th, 10th, I'm sorry. We have a tentative Dell Street School Building Committee meeting on the 11th, right after that. I don't know, we might want to discuss if we want to have the school building committee right after, you know, the very next day after the Board of Selectmen meeting, or if we want to push that out. I mean, I think it might be worthwhile to go another week on that, but I just bring it up to everybody for discussion.
I mean, I just want to be productive with people's time. If there's a reason to meet, let's meet. If we don't have any reason to meet, then, you know, we can hold it off. So I guess, you know, I'd really like to understand what the agenda would be. Obviously, you know, we have the vote of the Board of Selectmen the night before, but that doesn't necessarily generate a full agenda for this group. So I guess I would look to you, Lynn, to sort of time that appropriately to make the best use out of people's time.
Yeah, I think that Air Street has proposed a different schedule for the PSR than what we have shown in the packet under the meetings and milestone schedule. And I don't know if Gina or Larry, you want to go over what that new proposed schedule is. And then I think that we can look at where it's appropriate to schedule the school building committee meeting in that new timeline.
Yeah, no, and I think Tina, you had just the table of contents of the PSR that we could look at.
Yeah, I can share my screen again. So there's a couple of things we wanted to go over with, as Larry mentioned, basically what's in the PSR, just understanding so that everyone understands what needs to go into it. And then I also have some dates, proposed dates in terms of the PSR milestones for the draft meeting with the school building committee and a final PSR before it goes to the MSBA. So I'll share my screen.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, so the preferred schematic report, PSR as it's called in the MSBA lingo, is the last piece, the deliverable for this phase of the project. And essentially, as we had mentioned, you know, it seems 1,000 years ago now, this gives them our preferred scheme, our preferred site, as well as project information and certainly project budget, and allows them to then evaluate our process for selecting the preferred site, our process for getting to a preferred solution, and eventually then put it in front of their board for approval, which allows us to move into schematic design. Where we are targeting is in December. It's actually at the end of December. Submission date, which puts us on a board meeting in February, the 11th, I believe it is, for approval. And then once we have their approval, we would move forward with schematic design in the spring of next year. So what we wanted to do, it's a little bit of a nuanced discussion about first kind of get everybody's minds of what this thing means. You know, we've talked about it a fair amount. And I certainly don't want to go through the nits and gnats of the table of contents, but more or less we're documenting all the work that's happened since we submitted the PDP back in March, is my recollection. It could have been April. And as you see here, and this follows their requirements quite carefully, and, you know, basically follows their outline. This is the information they want, so we're going to give it to them in their format. Makes it easy for them to review. There's an introduction, which is, you know, the executive summary for those who want to just read that, which is probably the board members. There is updated information on the existing conditions, section 3.3.2. And those numbers are, by the way, their numbers. We didn't invent those. Section 3.3.3 is the final evaluation of the alternatives. And as you can see there, each one of the alternatives that we've talked about, all 11 of them, are described and illustrated and so forth. And then section 3.3.4 is the preferred solution. As you can see there, there's a raft of information they're looking for on that. As Lynn mentioned, 3.3.5, the local actions and approvals. That's information coming from the district, which Lynn and Left Field will be working on. And then there's appendices, which sort of tightens it up. So you can see it's a fairly complex document. We are starting the process of doing those things that we can. The existing conditions, for instance, that's moving ahead. The final evaluation of alternatives, that's moving ahead. And some of the other pieces are being developed in advance of the Board of Selectmen vote on the 10th. And then starting on the 10th, we then pivot to then documenting the preferred solution, assuming for the moment it's Wheelock, but we know that's obviously up for discussion. And so what we then will do is put all that together. The goal is to then put it in front of this group for review in draft format. Once you have seen it and approve it, essentially you're authorizing us to submit it, which we would want to do in December. So the basic thought we had, and maybe Tina, if you can pop to the next.
One more.
There we go. So November 3rd, election day. So, okay, so that's the item in red. The Board of Selectmen vote the following Tuesday on the 10th. Again, we have a meeting or not on the 11th. What we more or less were going to try and do was submit to this group by right before Thanksgiving on the 24th. And essentially give you 2 weeks to review the report. And what we're trying to do is have this group come together on the 9th of December, review the report, give us whatever feedback you would like to give us. That gives us essentially a week and change to button up all the different pieces we need for submission on December 18th. That's a little ahead. Their official deadline for submission is December 29th. But given the fact that the week before Christmas and between Christmas and New Year's is a little difficult to pull together information, particularly if it's coming from the town, we thought it would behoove us to aim for the 18th. If it doesn't quite get done and we need to submit it on the 21st or 22nd, that's okay. But we certainly don't want to go past the 29th because then we would then miss yet another board vote.
That's not happening.
And that's not happening. I agree.
So I guess my question, Larry, is, you know, 2 weeks from the vote enough time for you to pull together a draft? Because I don't know, and maybe others here might want to chime in. I don't know that we need 2 full weeks for this group to review it.
Yeah, and that might be good guidance for us in terms of how long you think you would want. What you were suggesting, and I think, so to parse that a little bit, one thought we had to kind of keep things moving in terms of the draft is to potentially be updating the plans, and assuming that the plans might be updated, so the draft comes along, everybody's looking at the text part of it, and the plans are meanwhile being developed a little further so that we're illustrating all the bits and pieces that the MSBA wants to see.
Sure.
And the two kind of converge on the 9th or shortly thereafter for submission. So that was one of the things we were thinking about for, kind of wanting to give this group sufficient time to look at it, but also knowing that there's some work with the drawings that we need to do after the Board of Selectmen vote on the 10th.
I guess that's why I was suggesting after we know what the vote is on the 10th, maybe take a week and start that development, have the SBC meeting on the 11th, and then submit the draft PSR to the SBC on December 1st and have for the meeting on December 9th. And then we can keep your December 18th submission date.
So
So this committee's already voted to for the preferred schematic at Wheelock. We made our vote. So the only thing that might change that or impact it would be is if November 10th, the Board of Selectmen don't endorse that for some reason, and we decide that we want to reconsider that, right?
Yeah, we do need to officially vote to submit the PSR.
Yeah, but that's the 9th. I'm just saying why I think we probably need to keep the meeting on the 11th, but I don't think we need to have it if the Board of Selectmen endorse the selection. Because why would we need it, I guess, is my question. Why would we?
That's a fair question. That's why I was looking to Lynn and Larry to say, like, what would be the agenda for the 11th, outside of if the Board of Selectmen choose to reject our recommendation, then that's a whole different issue. We got plenty to talk about, but.
Well, I would think that you might want to see the development of the floor plans, because what will end up, the floor plans will end up putting in the PSR submission will be more developed than what you've seen to date, which are just block diagrams, really.
But that wouldn't be the 11th, right, Larry?
Right, I agree.
You wouldn't be able to do it the 11th. That's
Right.
why I was suggesting the 18th.
Even that may be a bit tight for plans.
Yeah.
Getting it on the 24th, we'd have it, if we got the floor plan development on the 24th, assuming the selectmen endorse our move, our vote, then we would get the further development on the 24th. Larry would be working on it because that would give you green light. At that point, everything's consistent with what the vote is. And you would work on the plans and the massing and all the things that go into what a preferred schematic looks like. And we could do that on the 24th, have a chance to comment on it on the 9th if we had to. Or before, well, that's Thanksgiving, but the 9th. I guess what I'm saying is, it seemed to me that we have time. We could get all that on the 24th. We'd have a couple of weeks to think about it, get comments back, and vote on the 9th. Even if we had changes or ideas or things we want to talk about, it still gives us technically 20 days. Your PSR is pretty. You can draft most of it, 90% of it right now.
Yeah, and that is what we are doing now, is pulling together all the bits and pieces, because there is a lot of work that's involved with the entire thing. So maybe the thing to do, if this group is willing to meet on a Tuesday, the 24th, is we plan that. We had leaned away from the 25th because that's the day before Thanksgiving. But
that's the 24th is also, I don't know, I think, is that a selectmen's meeting, Mike?
We haven't finalized the schedule for November yet, but that is one of the days we were considering for a meeting.
So we might consider maybe the 23rd if we want to have a meeting around that week. I think the 23rd is probably best.
Yep. So we could show some interim progress on the 23rd, and then come back with some more information on the 9th. Meanwhile, issuing a draft to folks on the 1st, knowing that the plans will be sort of being done in parallel.
Yeah.
And what we also wanted to do was allow ourselves an additional week. So if everybody's comfortable, we can vote on the 9th. If not, we would still be able to take a vote on the 16th and hit the 18th as a working deadline.
Right, that makes sense.
So that was part of the thinking of sort of trying to put things in front of folks on the 9th to
Yep.
either everybody's happy and we bless it, or we say, yeah, there's a few things we want to tweak and let's revisit it on the 16th.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
Anybody object?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I may not be here on the 23rd, but as long as I can get a copy of the plans ahead of time, I can look at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, we could try and circulate something on the 20th,
Yeah, end of day.
which would give folks the weekend to look over things, and then and thinking of those as sort of an interim draft set. Okay. Okay, I think that works nicely.
Larry, do you guys have anything more on your presentation here? Do you
We
wanna
wanted
go
to talk
over?
about traffic schedule, PSR. Did anybody have any questions on the PSR stuff? I know it's pretty
on the
formulaic.
schedule, just going back to the schedule. So we're looking at a fall special town meeting.
The overall schedule is
Yeah.
showing us submitting on in July for a August MSBA board meeting, and then a special town meeting in the fall.
So
Is
we were
that-
looking, Tim, at the middle of September for a special town meeting. It kind of lines up well with the MSBA board, with people coming back from, if there is a summer vacations next year, school will be back in session, people will be engaged. So I think that seemed to be the best course of action.
I just wanted to clarify, we are looking at a fall. We can pick the date when we get closer. And whether September is the best time or October or something, but that's fine. That was my question.
Yeah, I think right now we're saying we're targeting a July 7th submission to the MSBA for the August 29th. I think it was the date of the board vote.
Yeah.
I think it's that's
26,
right.
something like that.
I was just looking at the schedule here.
And then assuming a town vote sometime in late September, depending on how you guys feel that plays out.
Yeah, a lot can change between now and then. We'll see how it goes, but
Sure.
hopefully that seems to work out well from a timing perspective. Because the other thing this kind of impacts is we are going to have to start looking at the overall schedule and making sure with this secondary, or I should say a tertiary delay, we're going to be starting to compress the schedule for getting everything open for fall of 24.
Right, because we've now pushed ourselves to a fall construction start, which would be in 2022. I mean, so it will be tight to complete for fall of 2024.
So that'll all impact, especially we'll have to take that into account when we take on the chapter 149 versus 149A discussion, because we don't have quite the luxury of time in the schedule that we once had.
Right, and I mean, I still think regardless of which delivery method that we go with, we could look at doing an early site package to start, say, in the summer.
Yeah, I agree.
But the fall of 2022 would be start. So, okay. So
that would be the main construction start, but hopefully we'd be able to put some sort of early package out to get started in the summer so that we can kind of guarantee ourselves a good schedule for opening in fall of 2024.
Yeah, we should be able to do that. I mean, this is an 18-month project, right? 20 months.
20 month, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And now there was a point on that schedule. But, oh, are we sure the feasibility study doesn't expire, that we need an extension on that?
We requested and received an approval from MSBA on our feasibility study agreement. It actually expired on June 12th, 2021. So we extended it to November 30th, 2021.
Yeah, they
So we
blessed that
figured
this
that,
week.
Okay,
yes, we got that approval this week.
good.
So, so you're all set, Larry?
Yes, I think we are good.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the September 2020 invoices. That was included with your packet. It's Left Field's invoice for $10,000 and Air Street's invoice for $15,500 for a total of $25,500. Is there any discussion?
Anybody have any comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Bonfati. Do I have a second?
Second, Jeff.
I have a second from Jeff Marsden. Running down the list, Jeff Marsden,
Yes.
Tim Bonfati,
Yes.
Tom Erb,
Yes.
Walt Kincaid,
Yes.
Anna Mae O'Sheabrook,
Yes.
Mike Marcucci,
Yes.
Leo Brem,
Yes.
and Mike Quinlan also votes yes.
With these invoices, we've currently spent 51% of the total feasibility and schematic design study budget. And that's all I had on the agenda, just realizing that we had next meeting tentatively scheduled for November 11th, but we're going to change that to the 23rd. And I guess I'll turn it over to you, Mike, to see if anybody has any other business or new or old.
Yeah, so I'll open it up to the committee. Any new business or questions, comments?
I think the only thing I'd add, sorry, Mike, is
Nope, go ahead.
I think you want to hold the 11th, and whether you need to post it beforehand or not, but in the event that there's something to react to from the meeting on the 10th.
Just a reminder, you won't be able to have a meeting on the 11th because it's a holiday, Veterans Day.
That's right,
Oh.
it is Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would need to, I mean, the other way to approach it would be to post a meeting on the 11th, and well, that's a holiday. We wouldn't be able to post until the 12th. So we could potentially post on the 12th for a meeting on the 16th if we waited until then, or we could post ahead of time in anticipation just to be safe for a meeting on the 12th.
And then you could always cancel it if necessary. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Can you?
I agree with that.
We've done that for other projects.
You can cancel the day of the meeting, right?
You can cancel it up until 5 minutes before the meeting. That's not a problem.
So then we would just post for the 12th then, right?
Is everybody okay with the 12th as a placeholder?
Backup.
So we have school committee that night. Just want to put that out there.
So the other option would be to post for like the 16th.
I'll be skiing the Alps too, just so you know.
I mean, I guess my 2 cents is I don't see the urgency if the selectmen do not vote in favor of our recommended option, then we're going to have a lot of time on our hands. So I don't necessarily see the urgency of meeting the day after or 2 days after, personally. So
Right. So maybe we just. play
That's
it by
kind of
ear.
why I was hoping to split the difference and go with the 18th, but
I would just suggest that we hold off and not post anything, and then on the 12th, when we can repost, we'll post the first available time frame that works with the committee.
Well, it is.
Well, we would decide on the 12th what day to meet, but we wouldn't meet on the 12th, I guess is what I'm getting at.
You
Okay.
need a motion?
Nope.
Then not moved.
All right. Any other new business from the committee? All right, not hearing any. I have one open comment and one question from Chris McHugh-Potts, and I will read them out loud. First one was, there was no copy of the September 9th meeting minutes in the meeting packet from September 16th meeting. And my recollection was that approval of the minutes was tabled and not voted on. I don't recall that. Lynn, do you recall that?
No, I think it was there, and we did, because the 16th was basically the second half of the meeting, because the first one ended because we had technical difficulties. So we did have the meeting minutes in there, and Mike Marcucci had made the comment about how it should be rephrased and how it was ended. And I think it was approved on the comment that Mike Marcucci made. So it was.
In other words, she took the 9th and made it a continuation of the 16th, and it was one set of meeting minutes.
It was approved.
Next up, Chris asks, is there no plan to engage the community on PSR draft before it's sent to the MSBA? I don't anticipate that. I don't know if anybody sees a real benefit to that. It's a bunch of data that's already been reviewed through the public process. It's just compiling it all into one package that gets sent to the MSBA. There's not new information that's suddenly being put into that, but anybody else see any benefit to having a public forum on the PSR draft?
Well, there will be a review of the PSR and the content on the 12th of December.
Right, in a public meeting. So, so the community is welcome to join our SBC meeting.
I agree.
All right, and then I just had one more question from Chris McHugh-Potts. Actually, it looks like it's 3. Why was it stated by Mike Q or a selectman at public forum that the Minebrook Bridge on Elm is privately owned? I don't recall ever stating that. Personally, I don't know if anyone did. I've never heard that. Mike, do you recall hearing that at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Second question, when will the project notification form be submitted to Mass Historical for the Wheelock site? That can't occur until the selectmen vote to accept the PSR. And then I would look to Larry and his team and Lynn on when they would submit the PNF for Mass Historic.
I was going to say, I think we have prepared a draft of each, and so it could be submitted pretty quickly. I'm not sure. We'd have to talk about whether we would expect them to get something back to us by the time we need to submit the final report.
Well, technically, it's not required until the schematic design submission.
Right.
So, I mean, as soon as we know the site, we can submit right away, but it's not required to be included until we submit the schematic design. Because there may be a response from them that we might have to respond to. So.
Yeah. And then final question, will Medfield School Committee be getting new NESDEC school enrollment projections this fall? And I would say that that's a question for the Medfield School Committee, not this group. So I am going to decline to answer that. Okay, so that's all the open questions. Unless anyone has anything else to discuss, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mike, how many people were in attendance for tonight's meeting?
Outside of this group, 2.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion from Leo Brem.
Second,
sorry.
Jeff.
Second from Jeff. Running down the list, Jeff,
Yes.
Tim Bonfatti,
Yes.
Tom Herb,
Yes.
Walt Kincaid,
Yes.
Anna Mae O'Sheabrook,
Yes.
Mike Marcucci,
Yes.
and Leo Brem,
Yes.
and Mike Quinlan also votes yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
See you guys.